Gamescom's opening night live is coming at us in just over a day or so. However, I think I figured out whatever these hand motions are, what the biggest thing that's going to be at the show is. Now, this has been right in front of us, right in front of our noses for the last few months. Now, I want to point out that I think the biggest thing that's going to be there is Hollow Knight Silksong. I think that thing's going to get a shadow drop alongside release dates for the ROG Xbox Ally. Now, I have bits of evidence for this thing that I'm going to get to. The first being that the ROG Xbox Ally is already confirmed to be at the show itself. Both on the Wednesday and Thursday. It's listed in the official Gamescom materials. The Xbox Ally, if you don't already know, is Xbox's handheld system. It's a bit of a Steam Deck competitor. It's obviously going to be competing with the Switch as well. But in terms of the raw hardware, it does feel like Xbox wants to have all of the conversations around what's the meatiest piece of handheld tech that you can get. They want that to be the portable Xbox Ally. And I'm going to get to the specifics of what the Ally can do and the pricing that has potentially leaked as well. However, if we're talking about the ROG Xbox Ally, one of the main pieces of evidence for this thing is that it just leaked on Amazon. Amazon had to take the listing down. It leaked last week, listed on Amazon. There was a few different things that were on there in regards to the battery life and the triggers and the form factor and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously it wasn't supposed to be leaked just yet. Which is what leads me to think that the official drop for this thing is at Gamescom. However, the teaser trailer for this back in June, that showed Hollow Knight Silksong being played on the ROG Xbox Ally. It was the first time we'd seen Silksong in what felt like forever, but obviously a much more updated build of the game. Looked very confident. It was one of the only things that was used to show off the ROG Xbox Ally. So it makes me think that there is an association between Hollow Knight Silksong and the ROG Xbox Ally. Now, what is a game that is playable at Gamescom for the first time ever? Hollow Knight Silksong. Jeff Keighley already got out there, the host for the show, Jeff Keighley already got out there and said that they're going to have playable booths for Hollow Knight Silksong playing on Xbox. Now, again, the association between Xbox and Hollow Knight Silksong, if you throw Jeff Keighley in there, he's a big fan of Xbox. The Series X was revealed at the Game Awards way back in like 2020 or whenever the hell that thing was. The pre-pandemic was a time that I struggle to remember. But still, there is that association or that assumption of a companionship between Jeff Keighley and Xbox. So why not show off the next piece of key Xbox hardware tech at Opening Night Live, at yet another one of the biggest shows that Jeff Keighley puts together? It's worth saying that Opening Night Live this year, and Gamescom this year, is the biggest show they've ever put on. I actually attended Gamescom a few years ago in the Colin Mess Arena, and it was awesome. It was always like this really cool sort of European version of E3, or whatever the hell you want to call it, but it didn't have that much stature in comparison to an E3, or even what's, something the likes of Summer Game Fest has turned into. Now, Opening Night Live is one of the three prongs of, video game celebrations that Jeff Keighley puts together. Summer Game Fest, Opening Night Live, and the Game Awards. But Opening Night Live has always been the one that needs a little bit more of a push, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what level of expectations to apply to ONL. But if we get something like this, it would massively help Jeff Keighley, and it would solidify Opening Night Live as being one of the bigger things that we can all look to as, oh my god, there's going to be shadow drops, there's going to be reveals, or whatever. So I think it's that. I think if you look to the likes of, like I said, the official listings for the ROG Xbox Ally being deleted as of only a few days ago, and Hollow Knight Silksong being shown alongside the system that is going to be there, and the thing's going to be playable, I think that's what we're getting. Either it's a shadow drop because we've waited a ridiculous amount of time. Hollow Knight Silksong was first shown off back in 2019. It's been 6 years since that thing. And also, developers Team Cherry, they took what was initially a DLC for Hollow Knight and expanded it into this whole different sequel of a game in Silksong. They're a very small team as well. It has taken quite a long time to put together, but the amount of money that Hollow Knight made, the reputation that game has as one of the best Metroidvanias / Dark Soulsy style video games, definitely brought in enough money that they were able to take their time and finally release when they were ready. There's no way that Hollow Knight Silksong slipped onto an Xbox, the handheld reveal without them fully committing and saying, we need this association to be in place. Let's talk about the ROG Xbox Ally itself, though. Like I said at the beginning, this is Xbox making a play for the Steam Deck portion of the audience. I feel like quite a lot of people have Steam Decks, or they are very much aware of what a Steam Deck can do, but it doesn't have, if you're talking about the console audience, it doesn't have that immediate pull. It was why the likes of the Steam machine died, 8 to 10 years ago. And there's a big space for hybrid console machines. Nintendo got out there and proved that the Switch was an idea that would obviously work. The Switch 2, one of the fastest selling consoles in gaming history. And then you go to the bigger consoles, the big boy consoles, the Sonys, the Xboxes, or the Microsofts, And the leaked specs for the PlayStation 6 point to the idea of a home console and a hybrid system right alongside it. In theory, that's what Sony's doing when the PlayStation 6 rolls around. They want to have their Switch competitor next to the continuation of the PlayStation 5. Xbox, having been, they're a little bit more detached from the standard console cycle stuff, it seems like they just want to get on the hybrid stuff as much as possible and present people with an extremely powerful system. Now, I don't understand the vast majority of the technical specs that are out there. You can Google them yourself. But the things that stand out to me is having a full HD screen, 120 hertz screen, and a 60 watts per hour battery. Now, that apparently will give you up to 10 hours battery life, which is 10 times more than you get on the Switch 2. So I'm someone who has a Steam Deck and the Switch and the Switch 2, and the Steam Deck obviously does better than the Switch 2 in regards to battery life. Honestly, the Switch 2's battery life it's ridiculous. You might as well not have a battery in that thing. If you're playing something in 3D, it's dead within like a couple of hours. But still, if we're going to be getting this portable system that can play your entire Xbox library alongside your Steam library and your Windows library, that needs to have a hefty bit of battery inside it, because the storage on this thing will let you install full Xbox games, full 50-60 gig, full AAA video games, and just have them on the go, which is something else that Nintendo isn't going for. That is ground that is at the minute taken up with the Steam Deck that largely has dominance over that stuff. The price for this is rumored to be about $700 for the base version of the ROG Xbox Ally, and about $1,000 for the more premium version. Xbox is doing that thing that they seem to keep doing, what they have been doing for the last 10 years, where you get the basic version of the ROG Xbox Ally, and then you get the ROG Xbox Ally X, which is like what they did with Xbox One X and the Series X, which is an even more powerful bit of kit. So all of this stuff, like I said, has leaked online, was on Amazon, had leaked previously as well, only for those listings to be taken down. Why? Assumedly, I think because we're getting everything dropping at Gamescom. One, because of the Jeff Keighley and Microsoft connection, because of the Hollow Knight Silksong connection with the Xbox ROG Ally, and because there's just way too much evidence out there that all of this is about to drop imminently. Because it's worth noting that the key differentiating factor for Xbox's handheld system is that it plays everything. They want to give you a handheld system that carries forward the ethos that they seem to have in regards to putting, Game Pass on as many platforms as possible. They want to give you a handheld system that, yes, would play official Xbox games, would let you stream Game Pass, stuff like that, but also lets you access Steam, lets you play all the Windows games and Microsoft games that formerly have been relegated to PC only, which is obviously something that the Steam Deck does as well, but they want to make sure that those that functionality is as easy and as immediate as possible. So the idea of just a system, a one-size-fits-all system, like I said, is something that Steam Deck has been chasing and is largely regarded as, but at the same time, you still need to get stuck into various different storefronts. You need to be able to access, it launches into a Steam storefront, but you do need to go between the desktop mode, the full screen mode, and enable all these different ways of playing games, which aren't that hard, but are potentially too hard for the average consumer. This is something that is aimed at the average consumer, and debuting at opening night live means that they'll get as much of that audience as possible. It's just saying to your average console player, hey, get this one thing and it'll do everything, and you don't need to worry. There's even a dedicated Xbox button on the ROG Xbox Ally. That is potentially how Xbox gets back in the conversation, considering just how much they've fallen behind in regards to standard console sales versus the PlayStation 5 and the Switch 2.